Hey
Hello.
guys, welcome to the Neutral Zone podcast. I think I'm supposed to introduce start, but
Yeah, you can start.
I'm not 100% sure. But we're gonna start with introductions. We've got Self King Angus from YouTube, Egghead Hockey, and Nordic 97. So let's start with Egghead. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Egghead Hockey. I'm 12-year-old, 9-year-old sounding kid from YouTube who has an inconsistent upload schedule. Next person.
I gonna follow that up. I'm King Angus, and I am a 14-year-old who sounds like an 8-year-old who also has an inconsistent uploading schedule on YouTube. So, yeah, on to Nordic.
Hey guys, it's Nordic. I'm sure a lot of you guys know me. I'm a 13-year-old. I also do YouTube, and I try to upload at least 2 times a day. So yeah,
Alrighty, with that out of the way, we're going to move on to some big news that came out
just a
a
few hours ago.
14th of July. There will be hockey exhibition games in
July.
July, starting on July 28th, where the three biggest rivalries, arguably, in hockey as exhibition games: Flyers and Penguins, the Leafs and Habs, and the Oilers and Flames. So I think we might as well just go ahead and give our thoughts on that as well as predictions. So let's start with Nordic.
All right. Well, first off, one thing we forgot to mention is that our fans of teams we are. I'm a Flyers fan, so Pittsburgh and Philly, it's gonna be tough. And I think that, well, maybe it's possible that the 9 players that got have to be self quarantined and stuff, maybe they'll be back by July 28th. If not, that could cause an effect to it. So I mean, I hope Philly's gonna win, but realistically, I probably see Pittsburgh squeezing out the win, maybe like 3-2, 4-3. So that's my prediction. Montreal versus Toronto. It's a tough rivalry. Toronto is a powerhouse with, well, has very good offense with meh defense and meh goaltending, and then Montreal is a pretty good team offensively. Not too bad defensively, and goaltending has been always good with Carey Price. I think that though Toronto does not have really good defense, I do think that Toronto will squeeze out the win. And then Edmonton versus Calgary. I would think these teams are very lethal against each other. We've seen that, but with Corona and stuff, maybe we won't have those fights. But that doesn't matter. Predictions is that Edmonton will probably win 5-3. All right, so you guys want to go on to the two others?
Um, Ted, you give your predictions for those three real quick. Or,
Why don't we
go ahead.
just do the first day? Just go around. So for the Pittsburgh versus the Penguins, the Pittsburgh versus Flyers one, I think that actually Pittsburgh will also squeeze out the win. And for the Toronto versus Habs game, I think Toronto will also squeeze out the win. But then the Calgary versus Oilers game is the exact same. I think they'll squeeze out the win. I feel like Nordic made some really good predictions. All right, Angus, your turn.
Well, obviously, I am a Montreal fan, and this year I am personally rooting for the Philadelphia Flyers to win the Stanley Cup. I say the Flyers win biasly the first game. I think they're a better team than the Penguins, but this is an exhibition game just to get some rust off. So maybe there'll be a little bit of fun there, but with the Battle of Pennsylvania, I don't think that either one of a player on either one of those teams has ever said it's fun. And that goes with the same as Habs and Leafs. Personally, with the fact that Kulak, Ouellet, and Josh Brook, defensemen, all supposedly could have coronavirus right now, down to defense, and those three blows, fact is Montreal might not have good enough offense and defense to get there, and Price isn't a very consistent goaltender most of the time. So, and with the Battle of Alberta, I think that the Oilers are going to win that one. And then we'll move on. Just quick, Nordic, is my mic cutting out for you too?
All right, now let's move on to the July 29th games. So the first matchup we have is Florida, I guess you could say rivalry, in between the Panthers and the Lightning. And I think Lightning, hands down, are going to win it. They're just better. It's just that simple. The next matchup we have is Colorado versus Minnesota. I think Colorado will win this game. I think Minnesota's okay, but Colorado's just also hands down the better team. The next matchup we've got Carolina versus the Capitals. And I think the Capitals are also going to take this one home. They've been pretty good in the playoffs in the past couple of years. Obviously, they get wrecked by the Penguins a lot, but they are regardless a very good team, and I think they'll take out the Carolina Hurricanes as they're just better. And the next matchup, we have St. Louis versus Chicago. And I think this one will be a bit more of a battle, but I think that the Blues will still take this one home. And the next one we have is the Islanders versus New York Rangers. And I think the New York Rangers are going to win this one. I think most teams are pretty evenly matched, but I feel like the Rangers will squeeze out the win. And yeah. The next one we have, and the final one, is Vancouver versus Winnipeg. And I personally think, unbiased, obviously, that Canucks will win this. I am a Canucks fan. I'm going to pass the mic to Nordic 97 now.
Alright, well, before I do this, notice that actually, well, this is kind of obvious, but like, notice that none of these teams are playing their opponent in the play-in rounds or first round, whatever. So yeah, anyways, yeah. July 29th. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. Alright, so Wednesday, July 29th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time will be Florida versus Tampa, the battle of the Peach State, I think that's what it's called. Alligator? I don't know. Anyways, with that, I think that both of these teams, well, Tampa has everything good. I think they have really good offense, really good defense, really good goaltending. Florida, really good offense. Defense is goaltending is meh. But we don't know what these rosters are exactly going to be. Some of these players could be out of training camp or maybe get injured in training camp and not be able to play. So I do think that Tampa will be squeezing out the win though in this, because no disrespect to Florida, I like both of these teams, but Tampa is just a better team here. Anyways, after that at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the Colorado Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. Both of these teams, Colorado is like Tampa, has very good offense and pretty good defense and goaltending. Minnesota, their team is kind of meh everywhere for me. So yeah, I do think Colorado will pull out the win, but Minnesota might put up a fight. Carolina versus Washington. These teams have a history with them facing off against each other in the 2019 playoffs, and that was kind of salty. I do think that even though Carolina is kind of one of the other underdogs team, but I don't think their backup's legitimately back yet. You guys can correct me on that, but I know Mrazek's back. But yeah, I think that what?
I'm pretty sure that Reimer is back.
All right. So yeah, I do think that Washington will still pull out the win whether he's back or not. So yeah, there you go. And they might need David Ayers to beat the Capitals if the Canes have a chance. Hot take. All right, anyways, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have St. Louis and Chicago. This rivalry goes pretty far back. Chicago is a powerhouse. They are last in their division, and one thing that some of us may not realize is that every single team in the Central Division made the playoffs. You can tell that if every single team from one division made a 2014 playoffs, that their division is lethal. Like this division is dangerous to play in. So I think that both of these teams are dangerous. Of course, St. Louis is trying to go back to back, but this is not legit playoffs. This is exhibition games to blow off some rust. So, anyways, I do think that St. Louis will be pulling off the win, but this will be a really, really close one. So yeah. Anyways, at 8 p.m. Eastern time, you have the Islanders and the Rangers. That goes way far back as well, and of course, it's the Battle of New York, excluding Buffalo. Sorry, Buffalo fans. Yet I do think the Rangers will pull out the dub here. Yes, New York is a very solid team, but I think New York is just. I mean, the Rangers are just a better team. And lastly, at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets. Both of these teams are very good teams, very up and coming. They have a lot of good prospects coming into their system. I do think Vancouver, like how AK Hockey said, will be pulling out the dub, but it will be pretty close. So yeah, I will pass the mic to King Angus.
Well, you've got, again, you can tell there's a theme. Teams who are rivals are playing each other. Got the Battle of New York, Battle of um, Florida, but the one matchup that kind of stands out is the one that Nordic just said, as there's not really a rivalry between the Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets. But with that being said, I'm going in opposite order, so I'm starting with that one. I think that Connor Hellebuck will help the Jets, and I think that there's an opportunity for them to go deep in the playoffs, and I think that blowing off some rust, these are two strong teams, but I do think that the Winnipeg Jets will win this one. Battle of New York, I think that one goes to Islanders. Then the St. Louis-Chicago game, I think that the Blues will probably start Binnington, and it will depend on if Binnington's good or not, which it kind of does depend on how he'll be playing. And I would say that the Hawks will take that one. Then Canes Caps, I would have the Canes winning that one. Wild and Avs, that one's going to be a pretty entertaining game. I'm not sure if Kaprizov is able to play in that. However, I do think that the Avs will win. And the Lightning and Panthers, is that even a question? The Panthers are definitely not going to win. And the Lightning have a chance of going deep in the playoffs. And I'm just going to start Thursday, July 30th matchups. The Panthers and Stars, obviously, a little bit.
Panthers and Stars?
Predators and Stars.
Also, just to go over something you said earlier, Kaprizov, Romanov, and Sorokin will not be playing inside the play-in round and the exhibition games.
Okay.
The play-ins or exhibition?
Neither. They won't be playing until 2021.
Okay. But anyway, I think that the Predators and Stars are a pick of mine to go deep. I think the Stars will win that one. Bruins versus Blue Jackets, same thing with the Bruins. They're going to go deep. I think the Blue Jackets might get an upset here, though. And then the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Arizona Coyotes. This is a potential first-round matchup after the play-ins. But I do believe that there is an opportunity that the Arizona Coyotes can pull this one off, and I think that they can go deep if Darcy Kemper stays healthy. So Kemper, if he plays instead of Ronta, I think that this one will go to the Arizona Coyotes. And let's move on to Egghead.
Alright, so on July 30th, actually the day before my birthday, we have at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Predators versus Dallas Stars. And I think the Stars are going to take this one home. The Predators have not been the greatest this season, even despite signing Matt Duchene this last offseason. He was relatively disappointing. And overall, that's kind of a way to describe the season. It was just disappointing. The next matchup we have is Boston versus Columbus at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Boston, I think they'll take home the win because they're an absolute powerhouse on both ends of the ice. But I think Columbus will put up a fight, as that's kind of what they've been doing all season. They've sort of just been putting up a fight and holding in. The next matchup we have is at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is Vegas versus Arizona. I think Vegas will take this one home, but I think it's going to be very close, as Vegas is a good team, but Arizona is also pretty good, and I think they're similar on skill level. I think Vegas is a little better, though. I'm going to pass it on now to Nordic 97 for his predictions.
Alrighty. So, Predators versus Stars at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is becoming a pretty big rivalry, in my opinion. These teams, they faced off in the Winter Classic, which ironically was the first thing that I covered on my channel. Self-promotion. And that was a pretty big game, and I think that Nashville will be carrying on their saltiness after Dallas coming back in that game to this game. But yes, it is exhibition. So I do think that that Dallas is the better team than Nashville. Nashville's kind of starting to go downhill a little bit, in my opinion, and I think that Dallas will win this game by not too big of a margin, but still by at least 3 goals. Boston versus Columbus. These teams, well, so did Nashville and Dallas. They faced off in 2019 also. Boston and Columbus faced off in 2019 round 2. Boston, of course, beating Toronto. And Columbus sweeping Tampa Bay. But Boston pulled out the win, but that doesn't matter. This is now. That was the past. So with Boston versus Columbus, I think Columbus could pull out an upset, as Angus and Egghead said, but I think that Boston will be getting the win. So Vegas versus Arizona. Now, me being a fan of both of these teams, it's kind of lethal. So, I think that both of these teams, Vegas, I think will beat Arizona, but Arizona could pull out an upset. And Arizona, which is one of the reasons why, if they lose first in the play-in round, well, we'll be talking about this at some point, but like, if they lose first in the play-in round, I think Lafreniere would really help this team. They need a lot of good goal scoring, but they don't have Lafreniere yet. So, with that, I think that Vegas will likely get the win. All right, so.
Well, if Arizona loses, they don't necessarily get guaranteed.
Well, yeah.
They get like 12.5% of getting him.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They definitely would need a cornerstone player. But
here's the thing. Sorry to cut you off, Egghead, but if the Yotes lose, do they enter a rebuild? Like, I know that they have Chychrun, but besides Chychrun, they don't really have a young core. Keller, Chychrun, that's basically it for young guys. Kemper's almost 30 years old. Ranta is, 35, I want to say? And you have to think, how long has this rebuild for Arizona been? And they kind of, as soon as Kemper lost or got hurt this year, they went downhill. And you think about it, I'd have to say that they have to start building more towards the future. They have Soderstrom and not a very great prospect pool, so it could be hard to see Arizona being in the same spot next year. They could be in the bottom 10, in my opinion, come next season. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they've been very mediocre, no offense, Arizona fans, throughout many years. They've been in and out of like contention of playoffs. They've been a lottery team, then they've been like, oh, maybe we're getting into the playoffs, and then they become a lottery team. And then they trade away their pick, and luckily this year they finally, squeeze into the playoffs. I feel like they're so-called elite players like Bergerman, Phil Kessel, and sad face Taylor Hall. They're getting old, and those aren't even their core players. Clayton Keller, I feel like he's good, but they're wasting him away. They need to go into a rebuild. I think you could hang on to someone like Clayton Keller, but like people like Phil Kessel, Taylor Hall, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, they're not gonna help anymore. They're gonna only get worse eventually. And even people like Kemper and Ranta, they're getting into their 30s, and basically Arizona is kind of losing its window already. So I could see them definitely go into a rebuild in the next 3 years. I'd say maybe even as soon as next year because they really just have been mediocre for years and years and years, and their guys are just aging over.
Of course, I just want to say I forgot they do have Barrett Hayton, so he's their top prospect right now, and he's probably the future of the Yotes.
Yeah, but even then, he's not really like a big elite talent. He's like gonna be a top liner, but he's sort of like, I guess it's kind of a bad comparison, Pod Colson, where we know he could be maybe borderline elite, like Anthony Mantha is right now. He's borderline elite. Like Barrett Hayton isn't going to be a franchise cornerstone player. He's going to be a good elite maybe player, but they need like a franchise level player who will be the cornerstone and who they can build around.
Exactly. I would compare Hayton to a guy like Brendan Gallagher, who isn't, he's good, but he isn't enough to quite bring the talent in just want to play.
Yeah, exactly. Like Gallagher is a solid player and all, but he's not carrying the team like a Jack Eichel or like how I guess Elias Persson used to do last year. But yeah, I don't think they can depend their whole future on Barrett Hayton and Soderstrom. They need a new prospect and they need a new star prospect soon. What do you think, Nordic?
Now, being a fan of this team for years, 3 years, um, I yes, a lot of our players are getting old, but with this draft going on, I'm not too sure about our first round picks, how many we have, but if we get Lafreniere, I think that will really help out this team. Like I said before, if we don't, I don't necessarily think we'll go into a rebuild. I still think we have the keys and pieces to at least be. I mean, we went into a rebuild. We basically did. Remember back in 2017-18, the first year I was a fan of this team, we lost like 20 straight games without. We went 20 games into the season without without a regulation win, I think.
Yeah. Um, just to ask, who would be those keys and pieces, and also I believe Arizona has no first round picks. I believe they sent their first round pick to New Jersey when in the Taylor Hall trade, I believe it was. So
Oh, that's
they
great.
currently have no first round pick, which is bad because you coming back to your Lafreniere point, if they lose, the Devils get Lafreniere. That or unless there was a protection, I'll go look at
True.
that.
There's a top 5 protection on that pick.
Oh, okay, thank you. I did not actually know that. I was about to go check that while you were
Oh,
talking.
thank
But
God.
who would be those keys and pieces that you would use in the future, Nordic?
Now in offense, it's Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller, I mean, yes, he's my favorite player, but I think I mean, last year and you could even say this year, I think that yes, he's pretty. He's not done the best as he could back in 2017-18. I still think he's really underrated. But I think it's Clayton Keller for offense is one of the key pieces. I really can't think of any players on the Yotes. Yes, there's Keller, there's Barry Hayton. Chikrin, I agree, our defense is too old. We have so many old players. We have so many old people on our defense. It's not going to be fun.
Yeah,
And
you got like Goligoski, Larson, and even Chikrin. I think he's like 23 now, and he hadn't done anything really notable. And
yeah,
just to come back to your Keller point, I think he's gonna be like someone like Gallagher or maybe like Besser, where they get like 60 to 70 points per season, but mainly just goals. Like these past 2 seasons, he has not reached 50 points. He played the whole season last year at 47. This season he had 44 and 70. So yeah, he is a little underrated, but at the same time, he is not performing the same as the 17-18 season, and he
yeah,
definitely has been a little bit down in recent years.
yeah, I agree.
There's one more thing I want to add is they might actually have enough if they send a decent prospect, a couple picks, and maybe I don't think that they have what it takes to re-sign Taylor Hall, but I think if they send a guy like Ekman Larson and enough of a package around him, they could potentially be in the market for Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I think maybe after this, we should also talk about where Taylor Hall will go, because I feel like that is still a lingering topic. Anyways, to continue on the Arizona thing, yeah, I agree. They maybe could just maybe squeeze out enough to trade for Jack Eichel, but really, what would they have to give up that they wouldn't like? What would they give that they are willing to give that is worth Jack Eichel? Like Phil Kessel, it's not that good anymore. No offense. Taylor Hall,
Phil Kessel
UFA.
was a third liner all year.
I know.
Exactly. I think
And
he's on the downhill point of his career.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson declining. Darcy Kemper, not worth a Jack Eichel. And Antti Ranta, same thing. He's declining like hell. So literally, they would basically be giving up a lot of core pieces to go for Jack Eichel. So although it's a possibility, it would not be smart. It would force them. It would force them more into a rebuild. I think if they gave up the pieces to get a Jack Eichel.
That would be true, but however, I think more people would probably want to go to Arizona than Buffalo to play hockey. And but to be honest, you look at it, and Keller isn't their best forward. Kessel isn't their best forward. Nobody's talking about who their best forward actually is. Everyone's saying,
Oh,
maybe
I forgot about someone.
this guy." What?
Is it Lawson Krause? Because no, not well, maybe.
No,
Connor Garland.
good.
Connor Garland, I meant. Connor.
Garland is all right, but I have to say that Christian Dvorak is very underrated in my eyes, and
Oh my!
I
Yes,
think he's
Oh, I forgot about him.
he's the best forward that the Arizona Coyotes have.
I agree. I forgot about him.
Back to my point, they have a lot of pieces, but they don't have pieces worth Jack Eichel. Dvorak will be a top 6 forward, but he's not worth Jack Eichel. Garland will be a top 6 forward, but he's not worth Jack Eichel. He'll be good, but he won't. Like they have a lot of pieces, but they don't have that many valuable pieces. So my point was, it'd be giving up a lot of pieces for one really valuable piece.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, should we move on to the long list of players who are unfit to play?
Oh yeah, there is a lot, but these could kind of change, but you don't know. All right, let me bring up this
There
first.
are there's 19 people that I have written down in a Google document. I'm gonna start off with my favorite player. What was that, Egghead?
We'll do some analysis on like the more bigger impact players and how this will affect them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyway, for my favorite team, what was that?
Isn't if they're deemed unfit to play, doesn't that mean just any type of injury? And does that mean that they're going to miss the rest of the playoffs? Just to clarify.
Not necessarily. Some could come back, but they're not fit to play at the start of their training camp. And yeah, basically that's it. But
okay, I have one more thing to clear up. Ferland should technically be on this list, but that's because he has a concussion. He's had it for you don't really recover from concussions, but he had a concussion during this year and it's still affecting him. But he'll probably be ready to play by the time the playoffs will start. So just to clarify that for our viewers, that's why it's not on the list. Anyways, carry it away.
But anyway, starting off number 1, my favorite player is deemed unfit to play, and out of 3 players for the Montreal Canadiens who reportedly have coronavirus, and there were 3 players, not including Max Domi, who weren't at their practice day 1. Brett Kulak was probably the biggest name there, and he's my favorite player, and if they don't have the Kulak-Petrie second pair as a staple, and they don't put Weber and Mete together, I don't see there being any chance, even though on this list there are 2 goalies of the Pittsburgh Penguins who are not there for training. But anyway, so number 1 on the list is Brett Kulak. Number 2 on the list, Xavier Ouellet. 3, Josh Brook from the Montreal Canadiens. Then Corey Crawford of the Chicago Blackhawks. That's a big name. He's obviously going to be the starter after they traded away Robin Leonard for not nearly enough at the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say that Crawford is the guy, and Malcolm Subban is not good enough to beat the Edmonton Oilers at all.
So if
then Colin will, what was that?
If Crawford is out, they're gonna it's
That
no question that Edmonton's gonna win the series because Subban may be a good goaltender, but even then, he's not like a proper starter. He's like a fringe starter, and Edmonton's offensive firepower is just too strong for I think a 25-year-old goaltender. So,
well, I mean, you never know what these players are going to be. Like, as I said, well, we know this. The playoffs are unpredictable. You can't really predict the playoffs. I mean,
but at the same time, when you're predicting things, you gotta play the odds. You know, you can't just say,
but yeah.
oh my God, Louis Eriksson, he's gonna score a point per game.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna have 5 goals in one game.
But yeah, I agree. But
yeah, definitely.
I agree. This what? Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
This definitely affects the Blackhawks big time. Cause let's say Crawford's out and Subban's the starter. First off, who's the backup? I can't even think of the backup.
Colin Delia, I think. Colin Delia.
Oh, okay, him. All right, so
He's not even that good though. So
well, I've never even heard of him, so that must mean something. So like, first off, he's your backup. That might not. No offense to any of these players, but that might not be very good. Subban, he did all. I mean, I'm not demeaning his play or anything, but he did all right in Vegas, I guess you could say. Before that, I don't even know if he played before that, to be honest with you. But but I think heading into Chicago, he's not a starter. No way. All right, Angus, continue.
Yeah.
But continuing with the list, we've got Colin Wilson, Buddy Robinson, Dylan Dubé, Timothy
Liljegren.
Liljegren. It's a weird.
Jack Johnson, Matt Murray, Tristan Jarry, Dominic Simone, Zach Aston Reese, Chris Letang, Justin Schultz, Zack Troutman, and Nick Bukestad, all from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, you have Jarry and Murray on that list. Those are probably the 2 headline guys. But
And Letang, too. Yeah, also Letang.
Zach Aston Reese had a very scary, underrated season this year. Very under-the-radar player for the Penguins, and I think he might be one of the stronger players for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, you've got a staple of the defense and a guy who has been kind of a second or third pair defenseman for quite a while. But Chris Letang being out really would hurt the Penguins if he doesn't have the ability to go back.
Yeah. And with all these players missing, you can go. With all these players missing, you know how they were debating that the Canadiens were gonna win, and then they just shut it down immediately. Well, I think that now that all these players are missing again, I think maybe if these guys don't make it back, I think that the Canadiens might have a chance at winning this. Because Matt Murray, Tristan Jarry, who else is going to be their goal? Who else?
I forget who the guy's name is.
They don't have anyone else. Oh, no, what's his name?
DeSmith.
Yeah, DeSmith.
Didn't he score a goalie goal in the AHL? Or was that Jarry? I can't remember.
DeSmith, even then, DeSmith isn't necessarily a starter. And also, Zach Aston Reese, I feel like, yes, he's a good player, but at the same time, he's more of a two-way guy. He only put up like 13 points in 57 games this year. And I feel like the biggest loss is Tristan Jarry and Matt Murray, of course, because who else is going to play? But I feel like the Chris Letang thing, is going to be big because they've got the three big guys, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. And yeah, they're still good without Letang. But Schultz and Letang are some of their better defensemen. Like, besides them, and Jack Johnson's not really that good, but he's just like a reinforcement guy. But besides those three, that's half their defensive lineup. Who else is like a big impact defenseman that they've got? I think if all these guys don't play, the Canadians will have a bigger chance of winning.
Angus, I think you said something. I'll go. I go last.
Brian Dumoulin is another pretty big impact player on the Penguins defense.
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree.
I mean, I feel like Dumoulin's a good defender, but he's not like the big. I think Marino is also kind of a big guy. Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that the top pair all year has been Letang and Dumoulin.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
looking
I
up the
agree.
lines right now. You're correct. Yeah. So Dumoulin and Marino, if all those guys hold out, will be the top line, and that's not necessarily a bad line. But behind that, they've got Marcus Pettersson, and there's no one else. There's like
It's all
I don't know
AHL.
their AHL team very well, but half your lineup being AHL players, that isn't good to say the least. Yes, the Canadians aren't a great team, but the Canadians will have a higher chance with the Penguins being weakened heavily.
I would rather have Lafreniere than go anywhere else.
Well, now you guys aren't. Well, you guys might be pointing this out. All due respect, but we're 2 weeks away, and let's say maybe only one or two or three of these players are available by then. Yes, that's bad. Depending on who the players are, but like let's say if all of them aren't out, that's bad because because Tristan Jarry, huge, much better season than I've ever is probably the best season I've ever seen this guy play, and he kind of reminds me of Jordan Bennington a little bit. Does he remind you of that, guys?
Yeah, kind of. He's a little up and down though. So Bennington, we've seen
At the beginning,
2 seasons of this guy, and Bennington's last year's season was just on a whole new level. And this season it's just like, wait, I thought you were good. Like this year he's like, what is his skills? He's not even. He was good and all, but he wasn't like the same player. And I don't think, despite Jari having a great season, I don't think we can still compare Jari to Bennington's last season. Because if Bennington was never called up, St. Louis wouldn't have won the Stanley Cup, to be honest. They were the worst team.
I don't really think that Bennington reminds me of Jari because Bennington kind of came out of nowhere. And like all those years in the AHL and stuff, I've been following Tristan Jarry since the Edmonton Oil Kings won the Memorial
Stanley.
And he led the Kings that year. So to be fair, I've always had him on my radar. He was my favorite Oil Kings player, and being from Edmonton as I am, I followed them. And that was the year that kind of got me into junior hockey. I think that a guy like Tristan Jarry compared to Jordan Bennington, that I really don't think so. But who did I say in my playoff predictions that could be a Jordan Bennington type player?
Igor Shesterkin?
No, it's
Hart? Carter Hart?
No,
okay.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways.
Yeah. Back on the topic of the list, let's move on with this list. So the next and two final players are Derek Stepan and Michael Grabner. And these two guys, they're not in their best points of their career. Grabner has been up and down, and I don't think he'll make a big impact. Same thing with Stepan.
Well,
He's okay. He's not great this year. I believe he had like 30 points. I'm gonna fact check that, but I'm pretty sure he had less than 30 actually.
Well,
he had 28 points in 70 games exactly.
Well,
He was not a big impact. Sorry.
is Christian Fisher a center?
Not sure.
I don't think he. I think he plays both center or left wing. I'm not sure, but I think that apart from him, well actually no, since Taylor Hall, but Derek Stepan's probably this team's second best center, in my opinion.
Fisher primaries as a winger, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, I think Stepan is probably their second best center. But anyways, I think ironically, I think they were in the same trade too, to Arizona, which is kind of ironic. But anyways,
Really?
I think they were. They both came from the Rangers.
No, Fisher was drafted by Arizona.
No, I meant Grabner and Stepan.
Oh yeah, I think so.
But yeah, anyways, enough for that topic. With that, I think it does hurt the team a little bit, but it's not too big of a hit to the team. So yeah. Anyways, Angus, do you have thoughts on that?
I don't really think that those guys are the two kind of guys that would make an impact on a team with as least amount of depth as we've already talked about as the Arizona Coyotes. So personally, I don't think that they do impact with it, but honestly, you'll never really know when it comes to hockey because every player has a hidden role. So it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So let's move on to the next topic. Are Edmonton and Toronto the right hub city picks?
You missed one.
Oh, why are players opting out of playing?
Now, first off, I have my list here of all the players that opted out. So, well,
Okay.
there's also the assistant coach of Florida. Forgot to add him in here. So Travis Hamnick for Calgary, Sven Bartici for Vancouver, Mike Green for Edmonton, Camphor for Boston, Carl Osner for Montreal, and then other ones that really weren't opt-outs, but they pretty much were. Zack Troutman for Pittsburgh. Now, a lot of people think that he opted out for, he just opted out. He did not opt out. He actually got taken out for medical reasons. And then Roman Polak for Dallas, of course, no duh. He signed with the Czech Republic. So, thoughts on, do you think any of those players will hurt the team impactfully? I think Mike Green and Carl Osner might, but apart from that, not really.
Carl Osner's been in AHL for, I believe, 2 years.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Mike Green. Sorry, yes. You go.
If Brett Kulak doesn't come back, Osner or Ouellet, Osner is the kind of guy who could make an impact on Montreal. He could be the guy that they would need if Kulak or Ouellet or Brook don't come back before it starts.
Yeah. And he has that also extra veteran presence, I guess you could say. And there also is Max Domi and Capo Caco. We haven't really gotten anything confirmed, I believe, from either of them. They both have illnesses that make them more mortal, I guess you could say, to the coronavirus. And Max Domi, he has 3 teammates now that have been gotten the virus, and that could change a lot. It could actually force him not to play because the virus is actually very, very risky and close to him. So he may be.
He's cleared and back in camp though.
Pardon?
He's cleared and back in camp though.
I know he's in camp, but he has 7 to 10 days to decide whether he's gonna play or not.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, you could go now.
Yeah, Domi and Kako, those are 2 guys. I think that Capo Caco's for sure gonna play, but Max Domi, it's the situation. I talked about this with Nordic the other day. It's a situation. Does he say, okay, this is my first ever playoff experience, I'm going to do it and risk having the possibility of catching it, and if he does catch it, he might never step on the NHL ice again.
He may never walk again. He'll be dead.
That's true.
That could happen, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying he should hold out, because it's not worth the risk to risk your player's life in a playoff where your team may not even go far.
Yeah. Or does he just say, okay, I'm not going to risk it, and he's got, what, 10 more seasons, theoretically, in the NHL?
Yeah.
Enjoy those, and don't
Yeah,
go
he's like
for one. He's only 23, I think.
turning 24. Yeah, exactly. Or actually, no, he's 24, turning 25, I believe.
I personally think that he will take the risk. I think he'll take the risk.
Yeah, he is
But
a competitive guy.
yes,
In my
with
video, I argued both ways. I said that the risk is really high, but at the same time, Domi is a competitive player. He has no playoff experience, and if he's gonna wanna, take the Canadians far, he might need that playoff experience. But at the same time, the risk is very hard. So at the end of the day, it's a very tough decision, and people voting either way, they all have their reasons. And I think at the end of the day, it's up to Max Domi. And I think just based off his personality, he'll go for it. He's just that kind of player.
now one thing that you have to take into consideration. Yes, he does have diabetes. I think it's type 1. Is it type 1, correct?
Yes, type 1.
Okay, type 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and with that, like, yes, you could take the safety route and maybe go out, but this could be your only chance to go for the cup. Like,
I don't know.
I
About
mean,
that.
I mean,
He's still really young.
I mean, yeah, it's unrealistic, but like, let's say his team misses the playoffs every year, or he gets sick, or something bad happens to him. This could be his only chance
Well,
to go for
this
it.
is
You never
also,
know.
if you're saying that it's his only chance, yes, it's his only chance. But this is also, if he gets another chance, this is probably the worst chance he has.
Exactly.
The Canadians basically got in by fluke. Let's be real. Like,
Yeah, they got in by a point?
They were the last team in.
So,
Sorry,
I
but
think it was decimals. Actually, I'm not even sure.
rest in peace, Buffalo. But anyways,
Yeah.
all right.
but anyway, let's move on to whether or not Toronto and Edmonton are the right hub city picks. I'm going to start by someone from Edmonton, and I'm going to say no. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think that there could have been better places, a lot better places. And sure, there's low cases here in Alberta, but it could spike up at any time. No offense to any Albertans listening.
Exactly.
We are very stubborn.
Exactly. It could spike up tomorrow for all we know.
Yep.
Yeah. And in Toronto, I feel like they weren't I think the Edmonton pick wasn't the worst pick they could have made. I feel like I predicted that Edmonton would be a hub city just because the case count. And yes, you said that. I don't actually know if this is true or not. Albertans are stubborn, but if you have a low case count, then it's pretty obvious that you're the smart decision to go with, because the lower the case count, because we've all been in this pandemic the same amount of time. So if they have a lower case count, then that means they're probably doing something better. I feel like it should have been Vancouver and Toronto. Yes, I'm biased. I'm from Vancouver, but they've been doing or just like BC in general has been doing a very good job at containing this virus. And I don't feel like Toronto was the correct choice. But I knew it was going to be a Canadian place. I knew that for sure. Anyways, yes.
I always thought that Vegas was going to get it, but when
Same.
their cases spiked, because of their hotels around the arena, it would be easy. They could easily have. There's about 12 hotels right around the arena. There could easily be a hotel per team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the fact that their cases spiked so vastly dramatic.
That goes to show that this could happen to any city.
Exactly.
Exactly. But
what I was going to say.
No offense to Americans, they sort of have a freak situation where I'm not gonna get into politics or anything, but they had obviously the protests.
Yeah, we're having stuff going. You guys are Canadian, but I'm American. There's a lot of stuff going on in this country.
I'm gonna try my best to keep politics out of this, but and just views and stuff. But you get my point. There is a lot of, and I'm fine with all the protests and all, but there is a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah,
and
with
what
the
are you gonna
rioting
do
and
about it?
such.
Honestly, it's fine. I knew it was going to be a Canadian city. I felt like just Canada in general, as like a government, has been doing a better job of containing this virus.
Oh yeah,
Nordic.
yeah. No, it's fine. I think as why are you mad at me? You should be mad at the
American, you're American.
Well, yeah, So I think Canada was really smart when it came to this. As soon as COVID cases started spiking up in America, Canada was like, "Nope, shut down all the borders." I think that's literally what they did. They were like, "Nope."
Yep.
So they contained it as best they could.
Yeah.
Could have done better. They could have gotten to it faster, but again, I'm gonna just take the high road and stay out of politics, just as Zach had said. So,
Yeah. So
what's the
I
I mean,
shall we move on to
no.
the next topic? Or?
I haven't discussed yet.
Okay.
So yeah, I knew it was after Vegas, after the stuff that went down in Vegas, I knew that it was gonna be a two Canadian cities. Was Edmonton the right choice? Well,
Yes, I think
Edmonton.
it was one of the right choices. There could have been multiple right choices.
Well, when you think about it, Vancouver could have been one, but then how did Vancouver get
That-
dropped out again?
I think they just didn't want it. I'm not exactly sure. I'm
Why?
a little fuzzy on that topic, but I think they just didn't want to risk it. And also, I think there was some rules in British Columbia that they weren't letting up on. So I think that also caused the struggle.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. But with Toronto, I think that it's not really that smart to go with Toronto. And also,
Exactly.
we got to point this out. How about Hotel X?
I'm sorry. What is that?
I know. That's stacked.
Oh, you don't know what Hotel X is?
I have no clue what.
So like, there's two hotels for the Eastern Conference. Hotel Y, I think, has all like the wild card teams and stuff in it, and like all the players that like in 2014. Hotel X has like Boston, Tampa, Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington. Like they have like all the rivals in just one hotel. So yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. All right. Anyways, we can move on to the next topic now. All in all, Edmonton was an okay choice. Toronto, not really. All right. Next topic we have the Lindy Ruff hiring. Now we're a little late on this, but with the
I feel like this is
podcast.
gonna be a very short topic, to be honest. I mean,
Oh no, it's gonna.
what else is there to say? He got hired.
It pretty much goes into like we might as well just pair these two topics together. Then the Lindy Ruff hiring and why hasn't Peter Laviolette and Gerard Gallant been hired? Because like we're gonna be talking about the same things in there. So I think it was very dumb for the Devils to sign Lindy Ruff. Like no, don't disrespect to Lindy Ruff. I think that this could positively affect the Devils, but you have Gerard Gallant, who with Vegas, he led them to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first season. Why wouldn't you go for that? I mean, like, yes, I don't know what goes on in the Devil's office, but still. And then there's Peter Laviolette as well. I mean, there's others like Mike Babcock, but he won't be in the NHL for a long time. But anyways, with that, I think that it's very dumb by the Devils to not hire those two players. What do you guys think?
I personally think. You go ahead, Egan.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, coaches do make a big impact, but at the same time, like, does it really? Like, yes, like they could have hired like Laviolette or Gerard Gallant, but at the same time, they probably got fired for a reason, and it's not like the biggest deal. Yes, they might have done better under like Gerard Gallant or Peter Laviolette, but I assume Lindy Ruff will still do a good job, because just because he led them to a first year Stanley Cup doesn't mean it was all him. It was also the players. They all had like breakout seasons and stuff. But coaches help, yes, but they don't help in such like an exponential way.
So yeah, do we? Oh wait, Angus, I don't think you gave your point.
But anyway, I personally think that
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So with sorry.
Lindy Ruff isn't exactly a great fit. Sorry, I was just reading the sheet as everyone's editing it.
Yeah.
But Lindy Ruff isn't exactly the best hiring. I think that Laviolette would have been my first choice, and Gallant would have been my second choice. But, however, I do think that it could work out. But it's really hard to say with that.
Yeah.
Hiring as
It's.
a coach, they could either have a breakout or really, really suck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
could be worse. Could have been
yeah.
Laviolette.
At the end of the day, they hired a good coach. Yes, they could have hired someone better, but they still hired a coach. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, they're better coaches, but it's not like they're gonna suck under this guy because it's not like Lindy Ruff is that much worse than Laviolette or Gerard Gallant. It's just that he's a little worse, and it's a smaller change, and they maybe would have done better with like development and stuff because they're rebuilders, of course. If they had been under those guys, but at the same time, they're probably still gonna do well under Lindy Ruff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic.
Fake Besser trades. Obviously, all the Brock Besser rumors have been announced that there is no chance that Vancouver is going to trade him, and I can see why. Besser is a key piece. 2 years ago, he was a nominee for the Calder, if I recall correctly. And Besser is a very good young player, and you've got Pedersen, Besser, and Quinn Hughes. Those are three amazing players to build around. And then Thatcher Demko kind of came out of nowhere and became, okay, I'm
not really
cool,
out of
and
nowhere.
I'm a very good player. And
I mean, he's been in our system a lot of time, and we've thought about him and talked about him very highly. I feel like he hasn't exceeded expectations. We still think he will be an elite goaltender, but we thought we were losing hope for a little while, and then he sort of came out of nowhere. I guess you're right. But
yeah.
You were saying?
And Jacob Markstrom had an amazing season as well. And whether they re-sign Markey or not, Demko is the kind of guy that can lead the team in the future. And honestly, PD, Demko, Hughes, and Besser
Horvat,
are
Miller.
amazing. Oh yeah, Horvat, Miller, and all you need to do is build that defense up a little more around Quinn Hughes.
I mean, just today they just signed Jack Rathbone, top Harvard defenseman. They've got Jet Wu, they've got Oli Levy. So yeah, you're right. They do need to build their defensemen up, but at the same time, they already have some very good defensemen. And like I said this morning in my video, I think that Rathbone may be ready to play in the NHL next year, like as a sixth defenseman. Anyways, you were saying.
But yeah, I think that personally they can build that defense around. Edler's getting old. They have Jordy Ben, Tyler Myers, and Brandon Tanev. I think it's Brand.
I think Chris Tanev.
But anyway, that's a pretty good team, and I don't. I kind of was caught off guard when Besser rumors started floating around. I don't see how they would ever trade Besser.
Yeah, I was like, no way.
Yeah. The Besser trades. Also, I heard this that Petey he doesn't. He would be. It said that he would be very mad if Besser got traded, and he's kind of like LeBron in some cases where it's like, all right, I want this guy out and I want this guy in because he's such an important player, you know. And also, yes, Jim Benning went out and said that he doesn't want to trade him. And I believe that he's telling the truth, but it could be like the PK Subban thing where he's like, no, I'm not going to trade him, not in a million years. 1 week later, Brock Besser has been traded for a second round, like a pile of garbage. Anyways, also, I think that he's not lying. There's still a possibility. But the fact that Travis Green went out and said that, and Brock Besser, I feel like, yeah, he might lie to Brock Besser, but I don't think he would lie to his own coach because that's just dumb. That's just straight up dumb. Because if you get disagreements within a coach that's gonna be there for years, it's gonna be a problem. So I think Benning is not lying. There's a possibility, but I'm pretty sure he's not lying. And trading Besser wouldn't help. I don't get why you just don't just get let go of like someone like Tanev or Toffoli, and just maybe get rid of Markstrom. I don't like the idea of that, but if they really need cap space, then they can do that.
Now, with the Besser stuff. So first off, we're going to go back to a fateful time in 2017. Montreal Canadiens player at the time, PK Subban. Mark Bergevin, he said that he would not trade PK. I think he said he would not trade PK Subban. Yet, days later, he traded him. So that might play a role here, but you never know. It's a different GM, different team. You don't know that. I personally don't think they'll trade Besser away. I think Besser has a really good fit in Vancouver, and B, I think that coming into these playoffs, I think he could really help out this team.
Yeah, and the organization, all the fans, including me, like I'm a pretty big Canucks fan. I'd say that all the fans love him. Like he's a good kid. He's a great player. And like Benning said, it's hard to find wingers who are just natural goal scorers. And also, at your point of he might light it up in the playoffs. Apparently, he's been already looking better than he has in a little while in the training camp, and he's like getting hits off. He's shooting more, and he's getting. I think he's using his big size. I believe he's like 209 pounds or something. So I like to see him go back to his usual shooting style. Yes, he's been a good or better playmaker, but he is a good playmaker regardless. I feel like he's not shooting enough, and I feel like he doesn't utilize his body. So it's great to hear that he's finally utilizing his body in this training camp. And I think those trade rumors may have been a ploy to spark Besser because Coach Travis Green has done things like scratch him to light a spark inside him because he's kind of one of those players where it's like if you feel like you're comfortable, you don't play as well. And then if you get like contended with, like even Toffoli, they might have acquired him. You never know to light up, like give some competition to Besser and light a spark inside him. So I think he will probably be better inside of the playoffs, and hopefully he can light it up and help carry the Canucks past Minnesota. Yep, I agree.
All right. Now, moving on to the next topic. We did have it's kind of like, it was a big topic in this one. The Arizona Coyotes discussion of, like, best forwards and all that stuff. Core parts and all that good stuff. We'll just add this in here. Where does Taylor Hall sign? Do you guys have any?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, and I'm like, maybe we should do that. And now we're actually doing it. So, where does Taylor Hall sign? That's it's still relevant, okay? It's still a lingering question. And I think I'm just going to name one team, and I think it will be Detroit, maybe, just because they're cap space. Maybe.
Ottawa,
I don't know. I don't know
potentially.
if they'll go for an older player in Taylor Hall. It's a possibility just based on the cap situation. I don't know about Ottawa. It seems like they have cap space, but at the same time, they already have their star players, and they're probably going to have to re-sign them in a few years. I don't know what Shabbat and Kachuk's contracts are, but
Shabbat,
yeah,
I think expires maybe, but Kachuk, I don't think so.
Whereas Detroit, they've got Larkin locked down, and they don't have Mantha necessarily locked down, but they have more space than Ottawa. And like I mentioned in one of my videos, they could maybe explore trading Mantha. It hasn't been a widely talked about thing. It just makes sense for them to do that. So they will have the space, and although they may be worse than Ottawa, they're just in more of a position to sign big name players because they're not like Ottawa where they don't like want to spend money. They want to spend money, but they just are lucky enough to have a lot of cap space. whereas Ottawa has a cap space because they're a cheap team. And another team that I'll pass it to someone after this that comes to mind is Colorado. I believe they were heavy pursuers in the trade deadline or whenever Hall got traded. I think it was mid-season, and they've just been known to pursue big name players. So I think they have sort of the financial position to maybe go for Hall. I don't know if it's necessarily the smartest move with McKinnon becoming a free agent soon. I don't know if it's this year or not. So, yeah. I'll pass the mic to King Angus.
Well, so basically, a team that comes to mind for Taylor Hall would definitely probably be Montreal. They were in the talks to get him at the deadline when he was flipped from Arizona, but I would have to say that the real front runner would probably be Ottawa, or a sneaky team might be the potential of, if they can hang on to Matthew Barzal,
Ooh.
the New York Islanders.
Ooh. Ooh.
Cap space is an issue, but you've got a guy like Eberle that you can flip out of there. Anders Lee is not on an ideal contract, but I could see Lee going, and I would like to, if I was in the Islanders' shoes, I would like to hold on to Jordan Eberle because the Eberle-Hall connection was lethal in Edmonton, and it could be back if he ever goes there to the New York Islanders.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Islanders thing. I don't agree with that, but maybe later in this podcast we could talk about will Matthew Barzal get offer sheeted. But let's stay on topic with Taylor Hall. So the Islanders thing, I don't necessarily agree. I think they might want to get him. I don't think they will be able to because, yeah, you could maybe flip like Eberle or Lee. That's like a big maybe though because I don't like. Yes, they're good players, but I don't think they're worth the price tag, and I don't think anyone is willing to take on that value without like having an absolute steal of the trade because they're losing money. Most people would probably be losing money. $7 million for Anders Lee is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Nordic, what is your opinion on the Taylor Hall potential free agency?
Now, first off, one thing that you guys didn't realize is that when he got traded to the Coyotes, there was conditions. So these
It's all picks. It's just all picks.
yeah,
so
but
that's really bad.
yeah, well, these go to the Devils. So I mean, it's worth mentioning them off. So first selection with New Jersey will see Arizona's first round pick for 2021. All right, so the third round pick that they got can upgrade to a second if the Coyotes win a playoff round, or if Taylor Hall re-signs in Ottawa. The pick upgrades to a first if Hall re-signs and the Coyotes win a playing round. So you never know what could happen. But anyways, that doesn't matter. I think that Taylor Hall will likely re-sign with Arizona. I think Arizona or even Taylor Hall might give the team another chance. Because, like, when you haven't given him the full season, and especially with the season pausing and all that stuff, it adds to that. But if he were not to re-sign with Arizona, Detroit, of course, is a front runner. Montreal, front runner also. Ottawa, not really, but I could kind of see Ottawa going out for him potentially, but no. And so yeah, I think Detroit would probably be the best option for this team. So yeah.
Okay. Sorry, you go.
Oh boy.
You can go. Sorry. Oh my god. Okay, I'll just talk then. Actually, no. You just go. Just go. It's fine. Sorry, this is really awkward.
We just had some technical difficulties with Angus's mic
Oh,
cutting
okay,
out.
I thought he was just going silent. His mic isn't working.
Yeah, your mic
Yeah,
cut off
like
for a second.
30 seconds. We were like, "What? This is the most awkward thing ever." We thought you like forgot, and we're just like,
It's
"Oh."
alright. It's alright. It's alright. I can edit it out. But anyways,
Okay, I think we're on the Lindsay Trophy finalists, correct?
now
Uh-huh.
I think, as far as I know, I think they're McKinnon, Panarin, and Draisaitl.
Yeah, you're correct about that.
All right, predictions.
McKinnon. He is very well liked throughout the league. He was very valuable. He played without his key wingers this whole season, and he still managed to put up very, very, very good numbers. So, and just the fact that he's just really well liked in general, I think that will carry him up a lot because the players obviously vote on this. It can't be like someone like fan where, no offense, Boston fans, he's a complete weasel. So,
Oh,
I
there's
don't.
no offense there. I think they know that.
Yeah. So I think McKinnon will win it, or Panarin. I think Draisaitl's a little bit more quiet when it comes to like personality things. I think he's just there. Yeah.
I personally think Draisaitl has to follow up before he wins a trophy like that. He has to show that this wasn't a fluke season, and I don't think he can show that just yet. So, with that being said, I would have to say it would go to either Panarin or McKinnon, who have had amazing seasons for the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, but yeah, you go. Sorry.
So I personally do think that my pick is Artemi Panarin, but if Draisaitl keeps it going over the next few years, then I would say we slot in Leon Draisaitl is a 100% good player. I'm not saying he isn't a good player. However, you look at it, and would he really have done that without McDavid? I know he wasn't on the same line, but you look at it, and I believe he scored over almost 50% of his goals on the power play, which the power play had McDavid.
Yeah, that is.
I agree.
I think Draisaitl is his own talent. I don't think he is his own talent in the way that he performed this year. I think he's a franchise player, but he's not like McDavid, where he's like a super generational player, where he's like once in multiple decades. So, Draisaitl, okay, this is a really big wound and probably, or like just like a very salty topic for Oilers fans. I don't know. I think you're a Habs fan, right? Even though you're from Alberta.
Yes, I am.
So I think a lot of people don't think Leon Draisaitl would be as good as he is without McDavid. And I'm a little bit both ways. I think this season was great because he played well and he played without McDavid. But at the same time, that power play point, that is a very good point. I don't know if it was 50% of the goals, but you're right. He did score a lot on the power play. So the fact that he still depends on a lot of his offense on McDavid, I don't think he has the respect of the whole league yet, and I don't think he'll win the Ted Lindsay. But it's cool that he still became a runner-up.
I agree with you guys. I think Draisaitl needs to follow it up with another year, prove this wasn't a fluke, and I wouldn't necessarily say just like Kucherov, kinda. But yeah, anyways, he's not a finalist. I do think it will be.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I do think it will be McKinnon or Panarin. I personally think it'll be Panarin, but Panarin's just done absolutely incredible this season. And yes, the stuff that's going on with McKinnon, I think Panarin will probably be the person that wins it. So yeah. All right.
So
Moving
you guys want
on.
to move on to our next topic?
Voice crack. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Story of the year. Now,
Our last topic too.
Yeah.
Or do you want to do the bonus topic of do you think Matthew Barzal will get off for season? Or save that for the next episode?
We'll probably save that for the next episode. Let's just keep this.
Let's save that for the.
We don't want to.
Okay, so If
you
you're
know.
still listening right now, tune in next episode to hear if Matthew Barzal will get offer sheeted or not, because there have been some talks about him maybe getting offer sheeted by a team like the Canadians. And although that's not a big rumor, it still is somewhat of a rumor. It's not confirmed by the GM or anything, but it's still cool. So, best story of the year. Why don't you take it away, King English?
I'd have to say, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, best story of the year is David Ayres. It was obviously a once-in-a-lifetime sort of thing. You saw it with Scott Foster, but besides Foster, not much has happened with that, and
Exactly. All right.
the
Exactly.
emergency backup goaltenders exist, and
Yeah.
not. It's kind of the role that no one knows of in the National Hockey League, and
Yeah.
it's there, and when it comes around where they need it, hey, they can perform and they can play well, and David Ayres showed that he could play well against a team that he could have easily. It was his favorite team, so he could have easily thrown the game so that the Leafs won, but he didn't.
Okay.
So,
In my opinion, the best story of the year. Sorry, what were you saying?
no, you go ahead.
Okay, my best story of the year is, I know that you guys both like Philadelphia, and I think that the Oscar Lindblom story was the best story of the year.
Yep.
I feel like cancer is obviously a very bad
I will
thing,
totally get into that.
and I just feel like the fact that he overcame cancer, and the fact that he seems like he's still very positive about things. I don't know. It's not every year when a player gets diagnosed with cancer, and especially a player as young as Lindblom. So the fact that he persisted through, stayed positive, and finally finished his cancer treatments, I think that is very cool, and I think, in my opinion, that is one of, if not the most, or the coolest / best story of the year. What do you think, Nordic?
Now I'll give you my top 5 because it's really neck and neck with all these. I think there was a lot of really good moments this season. Number 5 is the two. Well, number 5 not really. Number 5 is the two Svechnikov goals, lacrosse goals. Number 4 would have to be the Pecorine goalie goal. Oh my god, that was amazing. I remember this was back in I think it was late January, early February, where at least I wasn't really too much into watching more hockey games than usual. I remember waking up, I was just checking through the stats, watching the highlights in the morning while eating breakfast before school, and I saw Pecorine scored a goalie goal. I almost I don't know how to call it. I almost spit out my orange juice. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, when I saw it on Instagram, I was like, all right, I gotta send this to all my hockey friends. This is insane, because the last time we saw this was like Mike Smith or something.
Yeah, it was
and
2012.
It's very rare. Goalie goals, they're just so cool. I don't know why. They're just one of those things that's so rare, and it just makes it weirdly cool. Like, oh wow, the goalie put his stick down, shot it into the net. But it's not like that. Like, for hockey fans, it's like, bro, he scored a goalie goal, not like, oh, he got the puck from an icing and shot it down and accidentally scored.
Exactly.
It's just a weirdly cool thing.
And also, Angus, you might be putting on this point, but also how a lot of these goals go. In fact, the first ever goalie goal that happened back in 1980, with Billy Smith being the first one to score one. It happened off of a not really a good pass. It was a delayed penalty, I think was it by the Islanders or was it? I think it was the Islanders, and I think they lost the puck and it went into their empty. Yeah, it was, and it went into their empty net, which was deemed and Billy Smith was the last person to touch it, which was deemed his goal. So yeah, that's usually how a lot of them go. But I think he became one of the 16 goaltenders, including Ron Hextall, Marty Brodeur, Billy Smith, of course, Mike Smith, all those players. I think he became the 16th one to score a goalie goal. So yeah, that was a pretty high ranking in there for me. Angus, what were you gonna say?
I wasn't gonna say anything, but continue your list.
Oh, number 3 had to be the Oscar Lindblom. Now I'm gonna get into this being the Flyers are my favorite team. I talked about this with another YouTuber that we could have on the podcast at some point. Off the Wall Hockey. I talked to him on a collab that I did with him a few weeks ago. It wasn't a few weeks ago. It was like a week ago. About the Flyers and their hype going in the playoffs. I think that the Lindblom story is the reason why where is the reason why we are at the point where we are now. I can't talk. With before that, Lindblom before Lindblom got diagnosed, we were mediocre. I mean, I was actually fun fact, I was at his last game before he got diagnosed with sarcoma because I think he missed the Colorado game after that. But anyways, with that, I think we played really well after that. We had that absolutely abysmal road trip in like late December, early January. Oh my god, that was horrible. After that though, we didn't lose that many games. I
So
think
you think Lindblom inspired them?
I think Lindblom motivated them and inspired them. Yes.
Oh,
N-
yeah.
Number 2 has to be the David Ayers. That was really funny. I remember it was actually my mom texting me, ironically. She's like, "Yo, there's an emergency goaltender." I'm like, "Wait, what? I've only seen this once." So, it's pretty rare to see that. And
I remember I was on call with Nordic and one of our other friends that night.
yeah, we were. That's
And
right.
we were all shocked, and our other friend's a Carolina Hurricanes fan, so everyone was just in disbelief that it happened.
Exactly. And
Yeah. Like I had a hockey game the next morning, and all of us we were just on like one of my friends had Shaw, so we were all just watching the replay of it on his phone, and it was like, and then we looked up all like the memes and stuff. It was pretty funny.
oh my god. And then the Steve Dangle. Did you guys see the video that Steve
No.
Dangle made after? Oh my god.
We lost to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver
Who works for this? I know, right? So, number 1. This actually made me tear up a little bit when I heard this moment. Bobby Ryan coming back after his huge story with the alcoholic.
Oh my god, I saw this game. I was watching it from my house, and I'm
Um,
like, what is Bobby? How is he so good now? He scored. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. You explain.
where he scored the hat trick, his first game back after going into alcohol rehab. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I was actually kind of tearing up when I was watching the highlights, cause it you have a player that goes through something like this, and they come back in their first ever game. They get such a warm welcome by the fans. They score 3 goals. That's not only is it like exceeding expectations like crazy. Like I don't even expect them to score a goal in their first game back
Yeah.
to be honest with you. But I mean, like if it happens, yes, it will be emotional. But like 3, that's insane.
Yeah. And the fact that all the stuff he's been through with his life, like his dad being wanted by the FBI, him having to change his name, and like it's just he's had a very against the odds story. But I felt like I don't know why this may be kind of controversial, but I felt like the Oscar Lindblom story was a little less dark and a bit more inspiring. That's kind of
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree, but
bad, but like you get my point. I think the NHL is trying. I think just because the way the NHL is, they're obviously more of like from an advertising standpoint. I think they'll just pick Lindblom because of that. Yes, I think Bobby Ryan had an amazing story, and it's very cool to hear about. But just Lindblom's story, nothing. He did nothing. Like I'm not saying Bobby Ryan did anything wrong, but nothing wrong happened to him. And then he was just like a regular. Nothing was going on with him, and then bam, he gets struck out of nowhere. Whereas Bobby Ryan, obviously, he had an alcohol problem, which is not as like you get my point. You know, it's just a
Mhm.
different view. It's a different perspective, like and like emotional thing, I guess you could say. Anyways, yeah.
Yep, I totally agree.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
that brings
that
us.
concludes our final topic. Sorry for interrupting you.
That
Do you guys
concludes.
want to talk about anything else, or do you want to wrap this up and say our goodbyes and plug your YouTube channels?
I like the plug our YouTube
Yeah, let's do that, shall we? All right. So, we'll go first with like least to most subscribers, I guess. So I mean, that's
So subscribe to King Angus on YouTube. He makes, I believe, twice a week content. Am I correct about that?
No,
it's once a week, I think.
Once a week. But his videos are like they're
They're
very,
underrated.
very good.
They're
No,
underrated.
no, but they're not like me or Nordics where it's like analysis and like or like a really relevant like news. But
No
he
offense,
makes these
Angus.
really interesting videos on like Anthony Cirelli, how he went from 0 points to a Selkie contender. So I feel like if you're looking for something just like interesting and stuff, go to King Angus for sure. I mean, there's a reason he's got 400 subscribers. Let's be real. There's a reason why he's beating me by 40 and Nordic by more than 100. So, you know, definitely go check him out.
He also does he does montages sometimes too.
Sometimes,
Yeah. Okay, next we got is Nordic 97. He makes uploads way too frequently. He uploads like twice a day.
Cause I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, same. And then he makes news and analysis, and he breaks down things that are happening immediately. So if you're really into like trending topics and stuff, definitely go check out Nordic. He's got like around 250 subs.
Yeah, I mean like this isn't something to
Definitely.
like toot my boat with, but but like I was. It's not like one of the most things I'm happy about, but like I was the first person to report the Colby Cave death. I mean, like that's not too much to like toot my horn about, but I was the first one. So, and also, I was also the first one when Las Vegas was almost confirmed to be a hub city. So that's a much better one.
So he's kind of like a video type insider, and that brings us to me. I'm sort of similar to Nordic. I do commentary just like him, but I do commentary over gameplay, and I also do relevant big stories and analysis and breakdowns. Every other day I upload like 10-minute videos, and otherwise I upload these short little videos. And I primarily talk about the Canucks, but I try to talk about the whole league. So yeah, subscribe to Egghead Hockey, Nordic 97, and King Angus. Thank you all for watching.